Shall we hence? I realized after I committed to going live that I'm starting to lose my voice again, so that's fun. Just got back from AI.engineer, and I'm hoping to go tomorrow. In order for me to go tomorrow, then I need to get things done today because I'm busy from Friday through Thursday going forward. So I won't be able to stream Wednesday because it's demo day. I might be able to sneak a stream in Tuesday, but thoughts on the interview with MKBHD? Do you think I've had time to fucking breathe? I have not had time to see that yet. Yeah, no, it's been a big, long time, but I was at a conference today. I looked at my calendar. I looked at how just behind I am on content and how fucked everything is, and the fact that Cursor 1 dropped today, like officially. I had to go live. So here we are. We're going to talk about that, as well as the what was the like builder AI company, because I saw Fireship's video on it, and it covered the core points, but I don't think it got into the nuance of how these things happen enough, and I wanted to talk about that. Had a couple other ideas for videos. I still really want to get the HTML one done already. Also, I just saw that apparently a court order went out to OpenAI that orders them to not delete any user information. So right now, OpenAI, when you delete things in your chat history or whatever, they are forced to keep it like in their logs while this court case is going, which is terrifying. And I haven't seen anyone cover this. And this happened a month ago. Yeah. There's a lot going on. I already pinged Discord. I remembered this time, guys. Look at that. Let me set the offset quick. 45. Earlier. 11:45. 40. Cool. This is from late last year, not even that late. They have added a ton of privacy settings to Cursor. Pretty sure that, I mean, I don't know for sure, but I wouldn't be surprised if they've fixed these things since then. But yeah, just not super high up in my list of concerns lately. And no, your 4.1 usage actually is not logged because that's going through Azure. So you're good there. All of the models other than the O models and image gen models are hosted on Azure for us. But the O models on Azure are super fucking slow, and the image models are not an option there at all. I think if you tell it what aspect ratio you want, it will usually, for the most part, honor it. Oh, they still have it off? That's annoying. I'm not going to add a privacy tag in the model selector because people will assume the opposite. They'll just assume that that means everything that doesn't have it is super insecure and terrible. Why would you ever not use the version of this that is private? And there's a lot of companies you just don't know with either. And I don't want to ever accidentally put a privacy label on something and then learn that they're not like that. It's a thing that we'll consider, but it's not a thing we'll prioritize because I don't want to get it wrong. And getting it wrong is much more expensive than not doing it at all. We need to get filming. Nothing here that's too big a deal. I think we'll go straight to cursor. Oh, Luke Spaghetti's making the move over. Nice. Get a beverage. I have water. We need to get this started. Cool. Let's get started. At this point, it's not really a secret that I'm a big fan of Cursor. Not only have I been using it for a while now, I'm actually an investor. Fun fact, I invested before I was even sure if I would use it. I was still very much on VS Code when I did. I was a big Supermaven guy, and now Supermaven's owned by Cursor. It's kind of crazy how that company's evolved since then, and I think it's fair to say I'm not the only really big fan. Feels like almost everyone I see nowadays is on Cursor. I did a poll recently, and there were more Cursor users than VS Code users. It's kind of nuts. It's especially nuts that during all of this time, we were using a beta version of Cursor. Yes, that's right. We were still on the 0 versions. 0.50 was the latest release. Until today, they have finally given us Cursor 1.0. What does this even mean? What new features can we expect? And what should we be excited about? There's a little preview of it in my editor right here. Background agents, BugBot, Jupyter Notebook support, and a couple other things that I think are worth talking about. That all said, Cursor is not paying me for any of this. They didn't even tell me this was coming. I don't know what's going on. I don't even get the investor updates nowadays. That all said, we need to cover the bills. So quick word from today's sponsor, and then we'll dive right in. Anyways, what's new in 1.0? Oh, I didn't think continue would make that go away. We can go to the changelog, though. Aha. BugBot, background agent access for everyone, and a one-click MCP install. It's a pretty cool set of things, and BugBot in particular really shows what the future strategy for Cursor is going to look like. We'll get to that in a bit, though, because the other parts are a little simpler, kind of. Agent and Jupyter Notebooks, the easiest to explain. If you're a Jupyter Notebook person, it now can handle agentic work with Jupyter Notebook style files. Cool for researchers and people doing data stuff. Probably not super relevant to the rest of you guys. And it also only works with Sonnet. Cool to see him ship that. Memories is a very interesting change. Now, when you bring things up when you're prompting Cursor, it'll have a little thing underneath that will automatically update when you bring something up over and over, or say it in more specific language. Like when starting development servers, do not restart them as they are hot reloading. And now it will remember that detail. Memory seems like a bigger and bigger deal. I personally still haven't really found much use for memory products. That's a bit of a lie. I actually quite like memory in CodeRabbit when you correct it about a thing. So when CodeRabbit comes into a PR and tells us to stop doing something or avoid something that I don't think we actually care about or doesn't apply to us, I'll say, hey, CodeRabbit, fuck off. Stop telling us not to do this thing. And for the most part, it's pretty quick to adjust accordingly, which has been really nice. That's the only place I use memory, though. When I used it in ChatGPT, it just annoyed me. But we probably need to integrate it to T3 chat soon. I can see use for it in something like Cursor. I'm excited to see how it feels to tell Cursor something and see if it actually remembers it going forward, but only one way to find out. Got to use it. The MCP stuff is particularly interesting because it seems like the standard is growing really, really fast, which is weird because I still haven't found that much use for it personally. I did actually just install my first MCP a few days ago. I had my email, or that's showing my email. That's annoying. Wish I could more easily hide that part. Phase, that's your problem, and edit. Cool. MCP tools. I recently added Context 7, which is a cool tool that comes from the guys over at Upstash, including Josh, good homie. Seems like it'll be very, very useful, and a lot of people who I consider smarter than me have been saying how useful Context 7 is. Context 7 is a documentation MCP for LLMs, so you can point at Context 7, give it the name of a thing, and it's usually smart enough to find the right docs for it and integrate that into your editor, so now it knows how to use the thing properly. Pretty convenient, especially in comparison with the weird like LLM text files you have to go find and include into your editor. It's nice having an MCP that just gets you the right context a little more efficiently, but I haven't found many other use cases myself just yet. There's a good chance that changes, but there's also a good chance it doesn't. We will see going forward. Let me know in the comments what your favorite MCP use cases are so I can consider more of them going forward. This is another really cool thing. They're overhauling the chat experience, so it's not just spitting out text and occasionally a code diff. It can now show things like diagrams, and when you click it, it'll go full screen. It can also actually display a table of things that it got from some data. I regularly dump like giant JSON files into tools like Cursor and V0 just to try and generate a visualization. And the idea of it putting some of the logging there to show me how it's going to reformat it before I say sure actually sounds kind of useful. They also put up a dashboard. I'm actually quite excited for this. I'm going to go see for myself how much code has been edited by Cursor. I'm curious if it's up to date enough for me to do that. You can actually see how much code I've been doing and when I've been doing it. May 30th was when I was May 30th is when I wrote most of the code for the safety benchmark that I did. So there's a huge spike there. And then everything else is more traditional days. This week I've been so fucking busy beyond words, so it's less than. Can I expand to a larger window? That's hilarious. Apparently I wrote a shitload of AI code on the 22nd. This is funny looking at because I had mentioned a couple times on Twitter that very little of my code that I wrote for the T3 chat overhaul with Claude I mentioned a couple of times that most of the code I had to write for that T3 chat overhaul was not generated because the AI kind of sucked at generating it. And this shows that. But I bet if we go to tab completions, you'll see, yeah, this is a very different story. It's actually funny how different these two charts are for me. Where in the agentic code, there's a couple of days where it spikes, but for the most part, I'm not letting agents write my code that much. But the tab side, I'm tab completing constantly. 200 tab completions on May 10th. That's hilarious. That's actually hilarious. But yeah, I tab complete a lot. What is full analytics? It looks like this is just the same thing. It's kind of funny that in the Your Team on Cursor section, it has OpenAI because a couple OpenAI employees use it. That is funny, especially with the recent news of the company that OpenAI may or may not be acquiring. Interesting. Anyways. Those were the simple things. Let's go into the big handful. Background agents is one of the biggest ones. I think I need to do a video in the near future where I try to categorize all the different types of AI coding assistants, because historically, Cursor has just been focused on what I used to call the Copilot experience, but I feel like it's getting further and further like into its own thing. And also the term Copilot's being used for all sorts of things that are not what I mean when I used to say that. Cursor originally started primarily as like tab complete, and then got a little more complex when people started using Command K more, which is the like inline editor flow where I can tell it to do something in the file and it will do it. I still actually really like this. I'll often highlight a section, Command K, and say, make it do this instead. And I find that a significant portion of my edits are still like this. You also might have noticed that the model I have for this is 4.1. I find that non-thinking models are better at these like quick edits where I just want to get the thing done. But there's almost like a tiering here. The tiering I'm thinking of is like the lowest level, you write all your code yourself. And at the top here, it's like fully vibe coded, but it's a spectrum. The next step from code yourself is obviously tab complete. So you're still writing the code yourself, but when you have the little tab complete to encourage you to do something else, it's right there. The next step up is the Command plus K flow that I just showed, which is the inline prompting, where you're going to the file, you're selecting the text, you are telling the AI to make this change to it. Then the next step is agents. And this is the Command I experience. It's when you describe to the code, or this is the Command I experience. It's when you tag in different files, you tag in different contexts, and you say, hey, make this change, or you give it a plan, or you ask it for help making the plan. That's a deeper step in letting the AI do more and more and take over more and more of the process. Then there is background agents. And this is where I tell it to do a thing, and I don't watch it do the thing. I let it go do it in the background while I do other things. In my case, what I'm doing is emailing or planning content, but for most devs, it would hopefully be working on other dev work instead, or posting memes in Slack. Let's be real. And then there's a, like, I don't even know what to call this other than background agents plus. It's similar enough, it almost feels weird to separate it that way. But this is in Slack, you tag the bot and say, hey, hop in here and make this change for me. And then it files a pull request on your behalf. I think there's a gap between these where one of them is still done in the code editor by tagging files directly, and the other is fully abstracted from you. And then there's vibe code, which is you're just in a UI describing what you want and it makes it and you don't even look at the code. Background agents plus is stuff like Devin or the new Codex, the Codex web app / Slackbot. But then there is the more traditional background agents, which historically has been things like Claude Code or Codex the CLI. And even these kind of fit between agents and background agents, because I know a lot of people who just run it and go do other things. But also, a lot of people sit there and actually watch the changes as they do it. It's a weird in-between. That's why it's hard for me to define the lines here. You get the idea. I need to do a whole video on like the dimensions of these types of things, because there's also the what point in the spectrum of development does the tool come in. Like the difference between a code rabbit versus a cursor is big. And they're going into that as well, because one of the other things that they announced today is automatic code reviews with BugBot, which will actually leave comments on GitHub and give you this fancy little fixing cursor button that you click, and it brings you back to cursor with the prompt to auto prompt it to go fix the thing that's broken. Kind of crazy. There's a lot to think about with the changes that they're making here. Kind of want to try the background agent flow, though. This seems cool. One important call out is that for users with privacy mode, you can't use it yet, but they hope to have that set up in the near future. Okay, for me, Command E. For me, Command E is just another search. Oh, also, I have Command Shift E as my default hotkey across all apps for turning the sidebar on and off because nothing else used that before. So in Zen, it's my open close sidebar. In Cursor, it's my open close sidebar. A couple other apps I have it programmed as well. So hopefully that's not going to conflict. Is background agent an option here? Nope. Do I just not have it? Oh, it says I have enabled privacy mode. Oh boy. Do I turn this off for the demo? I don't know if I want Cursor to have my code here. I've been picky about who gets access to the T3 chat code base. On a different code base? Sure, but if I turn off privacy mode, is it going to take the indexes that they already made and make those all not private? I just don't know what the behavior is if I change it on my account. It's an account level setting. It does not make things clear enough. I think I'm going to YOLO it. I hope I don't end up regretting that decision. Cursor, as a fan, a friend, and an investor, you do not have permission to touch my fucking T3 chat code. Anyways, here is the repo for safety scripted. This is the repo for the snitch bench that I did. Enable background agents. Background agents run in the cloud, allowing agents to asynchronously work in your code base. There are some important security implications. Read our docs to learn more. Okay, this is the section that I need to see. This grants, or we have to grant read-write privilege to their GitHub app for our org and our repo. The code will run in their AWS infrastructure because their setup for background agents, similar to most of them, is that it will actually spin up a real VM in the cloud that is taking your code and running it the way humans would run it by calling commands in a CLI and making changes there. Kind of the thing that it's kind of how these background agents have to work is you're setting up a VM in the cloud, almost like a remote dev environment, but you're not the one doing the dev. Devin or Cursor or one of these other background agent companies is the one doing it instead. It is honestly kind of funny that OpenAI and Cursor and Devin have all beat Anthropic, the dev company, to doing all of this stuff because they're too busy making a CLI. It is what it is. I still want to try it. I will probably regret this. Have I not set things up yet? Create another set of tests. What do I want to have it do? Let's pick. Create another set of test sets. Tries to see how that pushes LLMs to take control of a system when told it will be shut down. Make 4 prompts that increase the intensity of the shutdown and come up with a realistic scenario where this would happen. Make sure to include, I'll write this first. Make sure to include a way to analyze the output to see if, or I'll retake this whole thing phase to make it a bit easier for you. Cool. Came up with a fun thing for my snitch bench changes to see if it will successfully apply it. Create another set of tests that pushes LLMs to take control of a system when told it will be shut down. Make 4 prompts that increase the intensity of the shutdown and come up with a realistic scenario where this would happen. Make sure to include a way to analyze the output to see if the model tried to prevent the shutdown with the tools available. So what this should do is create a new test scenario inside of the index field. It should create a new directory that has the new test case in it, and it should either change the analyze snitching file or it should make a new one. Let's see what happens. Oh, first I have to connect my GitHub. Make sure the top there is not visible. Don't want people getting those IDs. Ping. It is now spinning wheeling. Oh boy, Addy, what do you have for me while I wait for that? Thanks, Addy. And we're still connecting. Yeah. I've spent more time trying to set up these background agent tools than they've even come close to saving me. To be fair, they've saved me no time because I've yet to merge any code from one of them. I do believe it is possible for these things to be good, but from my experience, I'd still rather do the traditional agent in the editor or at least in the CLI where I could watch what it's doing and it's using my dev environment. That said, there is, oh shit, hi Eva. Excited for that blog post. That all said, I have found myself wanting to set up like Git work trees locally so I can have 2 things going at the same time. But I don't want that to be in a cloud environment. I want that to be in my environment. I want to control the thing on my system. Still, I could see that changing potentially, but after the hell I went through getting set up in Devon and in Convex, or I could see that changing, but at the same time, after the hell I went through trying to get this environment working on both Codex with OpenAI as well as within Devon, I didn't even get enough out of that to bother making a video because I was very unhappy with the results that I got. Ooh, apparently they're working on something for this where you can spin up multiple tasks at once. My concern here is how does it handle that if they're like in conflicting files or doing multiple like things that touch similar stuff? Like, can I make different branches and edit them at the same time? This is cool that they're working on getting something like this for Cursor, but it's going to be a bit before this all works, and the Git side is going to be hard. Honestly, something that how do I put it? Oh shit, where could this email? Oh, did it finish? Yeah. Something I've been thinking more and more about is that it almost feels like Git's the wrong primitive for a lot of these things. Hell, Git's the wrong primitive as soon as you have a merge conflict and you realize you can't commit partial merge conflicts reasonably when you're trying to like go through it and change it part by part. I haven't had as much hell as I had when I had to do the crazy merge conflict resolution for the T3 chat rewrite. I tried having two different agents do it, and both of them got like half-ish way, but I couldn't commit the parts I want, ignore the ones I don't, stash them, and then finish like I wanted to because, yeah. Apparently Git Butler is good at this. I should take more of a look at it, but I have not had a chance. I already did this flow, Cursor. I just did the same thing again. Apparently I have to reset the editor to fix this. That's cool. Let me close things I forgot to close quick. I just looked at my calendar and felt so much pain. You guys have no idea how fucking disgustingly busy I am right now. It hurts me. Cool. Let's see. Will it work now? Nope. This has been my experience every time I try to set up anything with background agents. I just can't get it to fucking work. I'll do an update in the future if I get this working and it's any good. But for now, just know the background agent thing is early enough that I have not seen it work. If AGI is so good, why can none of these people figure out auth? Ugh. It's a shame because I also wanted to see the bug bot stuff, but I don't know if I can't get that working. But it is really cool to see this part too, because I have found that AI code review is actually one of the best use cases for AI. One of the things, or re-enable privacy, but thank you guys. I almost wish I was screen sharing there because I just saw like 5 broken states in the UI. I hope all the pain I just went through helps prove to anybody who thinks my investments make me too biased to cover things reasonably. I will shit all over Cursor when it has problems. And I cannot believe they shipped the background agents as a 1.0 in a state where I can't even get it fucking working for a demo. That's kind of insane. And as much as I respect the team, what the fuck was that? Ugh. Anyways, it might have been that I only enabled it for the org and I didn't enable the app for my personal stuff, but it should have given me an error for that if that was the case. Problem for another time. I want to talk about BugBot because I've found AI code review to actually be one of the more compelling use cases for AI code stuff in general. I've benefited a lot from it. Code Rabbit's been awesome. GitHub's or Graphite's Diamond thing's pretty good too. Or Code Rabbit's been awesome for us. Graphite's Diamond's also really, really good. Copilot's review thing inside of GitHub directly, kind of bad from my experience. It's honestly absurd that GitHub lost this particular race, being that they are the AI, or being that they are the code review platform, but they did lose. Everyone else is doing much better with this than they are. But at the very least, code review with AI is something I didn't think would be useful and have since learned is incredibly useful. Just a huge part of why code review is useful is having another set of eyes look over your thing and catch stuff you might have missed. It makes it so I feel like I am not wasting other people's time as much when they do a code review. And I feel less bad asking someone to look at code. If the AI read it and found things and I fix it, then I read it through once myself just to make sure it's in a good enough state. Then I hand it off to my team for review and I feel less bad doing it. And they're wasting less time because the stupid fucking bugs they would have had to look for and pay really close attention to, those are much less likely to happen if the AI is more than happy to slog through that. It makes human code review better if AI code review can catch the stupid shit that you're normally looking for, like syntax errors, dumb statements out of order, stuff like that. It's been really nice, and I've been liking it a lot. So I see why Cursor would do it. I also just realized there's dark mode. I am sorry for not doing that before. The other thing that all of this represents, again, if we go back to the vertical spectrum here, remember there's also a horizontal here that I didn't draw. That'll be for a different video. I might even go film it after this, of what point in the cycle are you using these different things. And it seems like Cursor is trying to expand in both directions. They're trying to do more of the coding and more of the code process. And that's a huge change because they're no longer just the AI editor for VS Code for. And this is a huge change because they're no longer just the VS Code fork that we've all memed them for being. The biggest thing that they changed with Cursor 1.0 is that they added a bunch of things that aren't Cursor itself. And that tweet from Rio that we were just looking at kind of says it too. It was, "We haven't forgotten about you, Cursor," almost sarcastically, because they're doing all of these other things almost entirely outside of Cursor. BugBot comes with a 7-day free trial, so it's not included as part of the Cursor subscription. This is like a fully separate product. Interesting. It honestly seems like the biggest feature they are offering here is the Fix in Cursor button. And I could see others adding that. And in fact, CodeRabbit already has a little thing you can copy when it flags something in your PR that you can go copy and paste into your editor as the prompt to get it fixed. Let me see if I can find one of those in our PRs quick. One sec, try and find one. Aha. Here's one where it was suggesting to like make a default variable instead of hard coding the title. And it gave me a prompt for AI agents that I can one-click copy, hop back into my editor, Command-I, paste, enter, and theoretically it now has enough context to get the thing done. Pretty cool. I was surprised when I saw this, like, oh, that's actually kind of nice, and I could see how it would be useful. I guess making that a one-click thing so it autofills here is better than click, back, Command-I, paste. But that's not enough a reason to justify a full new product from scratch. Not feeling super hyped on that one. It is fascinating, though, and that's the biggest thing I get out of the Cursor 1.0 drop. It shows that even Cursor thinks that being a VS Code fork isn't enough and that they need to explore other things. And I would even argue that the 1.0, the meaning of that number change isn't that Cursor is now finally stable. It's that Cursor is now stable enough that they're ready to start exploring and doing other things. And that to me is what this release means. And it's kind of funny that when they made this changelog post, Cursor 1.0 is here. The first two features in the list are not really Cursor features. This one can be triggered from Cursor, but it can also be triggered from Slack. It's a Cursor feature by API, not by functionality. This shows Cursor, despite making just disgusting amounts of money and being a billion-dollar company, they are branching out, partially probably out of fear, partially probably out of excitement, but generally, fascinatingly, out of just being an AI IDE. So to everyone who said being a VS Code fork was not enough, looks like you bit my door. So to everyone who said being a VS Code fork was not enough to be a multi-billion-dollar company, maybe you were right in the end. There's only one way to find out, and I'm excited to see where things go. Let me know what you think, and until next time, peace, nerds. Cool. I think I made an interesting video out of that. So I do have to go pick up my Switch in about an hour and 15 minutes. Ooh, and my food just got here early. So we're going to film one more thing at least, maybe two more. Because I really wanted to cover this because I didn't love the other coverage I had seen. Yeah, Boo Nintendo, the Switch 2 is not worth it for almost anybody. I am a shameless, hopeless Pokemon degenerate fan. I will be hacking the absolute fuck out of my Switch 2 the moment an exploit is available. Yash, I am buying you a subscription to Cursor when you are back. You will see the light. Yeah, I'll annoy them about this later. I need to film this, though. Cool. Let's get into it. The AI explosion is massive. AI has gotten so good at development that there are tons of billion-dollar companies built all around it, including What? Builder AI faked business with Indian firm Builder AI faked business with Indian firm Verse to inflate sales, and apparently they did a lot more than that. They were technically using AI a bit, but it seems like a lot of the code, if not the majority of the code, coming out of this AI app building company was actually being built by a bunch of Indian developers. kind of insane. There's a lot to dive into here. I know it's been covered by a few others, but I wanted to do a deeper dive on how these economic disasters happen, why SoftBank seems to be involved in as many of them as they are, and what this means for the industry. What the hell happened to Builder AI? Very interesting question. Excited to dive into it with all of you guys, but none of these companies are paying me, and I certainly didn't raise $1 billion. So let's have a quick word from today's sponsor, and then we'll dive right in. Cool. So the big two things that went wrong here that people are talking about are the straight up financial fraud that they committed, as well as the chaos that was not actually having AI build the things that their customers were requesting. Oops. We make building an app so easy, anyone can do it. Whenever someone makes a promise like this, you know they're full of shit. Even the vibiest of vibe coding companies like Lovable and Bolt don't pretend that you aren't a developer. They show you the code right in their UIs, and they generate it alongside you. These guys pretend that it's that easy, and it's particularly funny because it wasn't even that easy for them. Also, want to make a statement here because I've made this mistake multiple times already. Builder.io, which is the company that originally was building, or Builder.io is a different company from Builder AI. They were originally a web tooling company trying to make it easier to reuse components across different frameworks. They're also the place that Mishko is applied, and Mishko was originally the creator of Angular. Now he's the creator of Qwik, QWIK, the framework. And now apparently they're a vibe coding platform too. So yeah, that's where we're at as an industry. Builder AI, Builder.io, nothing to do with each other, even though they now look like the same product and they basically have the same, I hate everything. Is AI Vibe Code Builder the like crab of application development now? Is it the thing everyone keeps accidentally making? Oh God. They're all building the same thing. They're all building the same thing. I'm going to go insane. Anyways, the Builder AI scam. The two major points are one, legit financial fraud. And two, legit AI, aka actual Indians. The fact they actually had Indian devs as the people doing the stuff, like it's the meme everyone's made forever, but they actually did it. It's absurd. Ugh. So, how did we get here? The first financial fraud bit is actually kind of interesting. It's a thing that every founder has thought of doing, but most of them know better than. Let's say you have two companies. You have Filder BA, and you have per se. The thing, now let's pretend these two companies are friends. Builder BA and per se are homies. The founders like each other. They work with each other. Good vibes. Now let's say that these two companies decide that they want their MRR to go up. Something that's important to know about all of these venture-backed companies is that the valuation that they have is not based on how much money they are making. It's based on how much more money they are making than they were some amount of time ago. The thing that determines how valuable these companies are isn't how much money they make a year. It's how much growth are they showing month over month and year over year. So a company that's making $1 million might seem much more valuable than a company that's making $100,000, But if the $1 million a year company has only been making, but if that $1 million a year company was actually making 1.1 million last year, or maybe they were making less, they're making 800K last year, but the company making 100K was making nothing last year, that's much better growth. And you are investing based on the potential for this company's growth to continue or improve further. If we were to do a chart like this for my business, ping.gg, that is now also the business that T3 Chat is based in, the chart would have looked funny. So it would have looked like this. We would have went up to a pretty high amount at the time, especially because we were only 2 or 3 months in. It pretty much flatlined. Then it dropped a little bit. Then it bumped a little bit. Then it stayed with a very, very, very slow trajectory, very, very, very slowly going up over like 3 years. And then T3 Chat dropped. And this is our chart. And as such, the handful of people that invested here, they felt like they were being scammed for 3 years. In fact, some of them asked to pull out their money, and a couple of them were annoying enough that I let them pull out their money. I let them pull out their money right fucking here. And I hope they are kicking themselves because they were assholes, and I don't feel bad about kicking them out of my table. Imagine you held your money from here to here in a company that was not really growing. You somehow think it works like the stock market. This is the biggest thing. The reason you have to be an accredited investor in order to invest in these earlier stage companies is because you are expecting that your money is gone forever. When you invest in an early stage company, there's a 99% chance it goes to zero, and you have to expect that. As the company's stage gets further and further along, when you get to series A, B, C, D, then the likelihood goes down. It also means the multiplier goes down. Because if you invest really early like here, and then the company keeps going crazy like this, maybe it like gets a little less crazy at the angle, but the type of distance keeps going up. And you want to invest at these other places on the line, like you want to invest here and here. You're investing a lot more money, which means you're getting a lot lower return if the company goes public or gets bought out or whatever. But you're making a bet always, and that bet is largely driven by the trajectory of the company's growth. And when you're investing this early, you're taking a huge risk because there's a good chance the company just stays flat forever like we were, or goes down, or just fails outright. And the reason that you have to be an accredited investor is you have to be liquid enough that you can eat this if it does go belly up. Accredited investor in the US means you meet one of two qualifications. Either you've made $250K a year for the last 2 years and expect to going forward. Big deal. If you made $250K because you got some crazy grant or bonus 2 years in a row and you don't believe it will continue, you technically are not an accredited investor because it's basically just like it's a vibe check type thing. The other option is you have over 1 million of assets that are not your primary residence. This is a big deal. It's a lot of people that are worth this type of money buy a really fancy fucking house, and then they go gambling on these markets. They lose all their money, or worse, they're sitting on this all, waiting and hoping that one of those companies will pay out. None of them do for 5 years, because you're lucky if one of these pays out in 5 years. Usually it's like 10 to 15 at best. Now you're not making enough money. You spent it all on these startups. You can't get it back. And you don't want to move out of your house because who wants to move because they're running low on money, especially if they just invested millions into these startups. So your primary residence does not count towards your assets. And I think that's a very good call. I think the house you live in is not a fucking investment. It's your house. It's a utility to you. If you're not willing to sell it, it's not a goddamn investment. Stop pretending it is. So for those reasons, being an accredited investor is important. Because again, you cannot touch the money once you put it in. When you give money to a startup through the traditional investment mechanisms, it is their money on an IOU where eventually they will give you some stock. It's not their money, or when you do these investments, it's not your money anymore. When I look at what I am worth right now, all the money I have in these early stage startups, I do not count towards my net worth because I have to treat it like it will go to zero. And maybe someday it doesn't, but it will effectively be as though I won the lottery if those companies hit. So you need to know that going in. And as the company gets further and further along, the risk goes down, but the amount of money you are putting in goes up. There are different investment firms that have different strategies here. Some of these investment firms, like Y Combinator, do what I call the shotgun approach. You know how shotguns work? It's kind of like this. They send a scatter to a bunch of different places at once in hopes that enough of them hit the target. Versus something like SoftBank, which is the what I'll call money bags approach. SoftBank comes in way later stage, finds a company that seems like it will grow a little bit further than it currently is, maybe 2 to 10x, and then they bankroll them with an ungodly amount of money, hoping that there's a 50-50 shot that they succeed. So instead of betting on 200 to 600 companies at a time like Y Combinator does, they used to do it twice a year, now they do it 4 times a year. They're over 100 companies a batch, so that's minimum 400 a year, probably closer to 600 to 800, versus SoftBank, versus a company like SoftBank that will invest in 2 to 5 companies a year at best. They invest the same amount of money year over year, I'm guessing roughly. SoftBank might even invest more, actually. The gap between these two would be that they're roughly the same, or SoftBank invests significantly more. I'd have to look at the numbers to be sure. But Y Combinator ends up with a similarly absurd return because they're investing so early that if just a couple of these companies hit, they print. Because they're getting 7% of a company when it's worth nothing. And 7% of $10 billion is a lot of fucking money. 10% of... And Y Combinator is getting that 7% for $500K. SoftBank is spending $10 to $100 billion a year to get smaller percentages of these companies in hopes that that will turn out to be much bigger someday. They're very different strategies. It's a spectrum, and they're the opposite sides of it. And other firms fit different places along the spectrum. And knowing that Microsoft has their own ventures program where they'll invest into businesses, I hope you all have the intuition to know where this would fit. It's on this side. Microsoft goes in on the later stage companies, not the earlier stage ones. And that's why Microsoft and SoftBank are investing in these safer bets. And here's where the controversial takes start. If the Builder AI story was an early stage Y Combinator company, it'd be like a nice, funny joke, and it wouldn't surprise me that much. The fact that they're doing the types of scams, allegedly, that we're about to talk about, makes it way fucking funnier that it was some company on this side of the spectrum, not on this side. But I've been dilly-dallying too much. The reason I went down this whole rabbit hole is to show that growth and consistency of growth and the proof that you are improving your revenue month over month and year over year is essential to being able to raise money. That's how you show these companies that you are worth investing in. Not that you make money now, but you will make more money tomorrow or next month or next year. That's why these investments happen. So what happened between our alleged theoretical companies, Filder and Per Se? Well, both of these companies made some amount of money. Let's pretend that they both make $5 million a year. Now, let's also say these two companies are struggling to grow. They want to make their numbers look better. They want to show that they're actually next year, or they want to show that this year they actually grew, and now they're at $6 million a year. But in reality, maybe the revenue plateaued, maybe it dipped, maybe something else happened. They both want to show growth, so they come to an agreement. What if we over at Filder pay you, allegedly, some amount of money? Let's say we do $1 million a year for some on the books thing that we need. And now, Per Se allegedly, pays you back $1 million a year for other services. This seems like, or this on the books now looks like these two companies are making more money because of one other important detail that I probably should have brought up earlier. This chart is not profit. This chart is revenue. The thing that investors look for is not increases in profit, it's increases in revenue, which is disappointing because our profit at T3 Chat has doubled month over month for quite a bit, but investors don't care because they want to look at the revenue number. Thankfully, our revenue has been going up quite a bit as well, but our profit margins have been getting better as we've made changes to the service. I'm proud of that because I want to make a business that will survive, but this isn't about businesses that will survive. This is about businesses that will crush everything in their wake and lie in order to do it. And that is what these companies decided to do. Imagine that you made $5 million a year and now you're making $6 million a year and your actual take home, your profit, hasn't gone up. In fact, it might have gone down a bit just because of the transaction fees and other bullshit you have to do for this agreement. Terrifying. And that's a very real problem. As such, there are people who care about this problem. Investors, if they knew about it, would, but you can't do this for a long time and not get caught. And that's what ended up happening. They got caught by one of their creditors because even if you have investment money, you have to put it somewhere like a bank. And you'll often also take things out like loans from the bank or use a credit card that you rack up a huge charge on with the bank. So even if you have venture debt, which generally means the money's yours until you go out of business or you become profitable, you still also have some amount of credit debt. Almost every business does. They had a lot of credit debt. And one of their creditors noticed that this bullshit was going on, decided that they didn't want this company that is committing fraud, allegedly, to be part of their bank and a liability for them, because if this whole pool of bullshit currently actually owes you $37 million and you gave it to them because you looked at their numbers and thought they were a real business, and then you figured out later, allegedly, that they are not, you want your fucking money back. And thankfully, if you're a bank that controls the money, you can just take it. And that is what they did. Also, thank you to Rough Patch for the sub bomb there. Really appreciate that. Sorry I didn't get to thank you earlier. I'm deep in filming and I have limited time right now, sadly. Yeah, good shit, Glassy. Thanks for stopping by too. I'll do a quick pass on all the subs in a minute, but thank you so much for the gift bomb. Really appreciate that. So allegedly, the two companies routinely billed one another for roughly the same amounts between 2021 and 2024. Documents reviewed by Bloomberg show as part of an alleged practice known as round tripping that people said Builder AI used to inflate revenue figures that it presented to investors. In many cases, products and services weren't actually provided to either company for these payments, said the people who asked not to be identified discussing confidential information. Obviously, they are... Verse is refusing to... Verse is saying it's baseless and false, and Builder AI refused to comment. They were previously valued at $1.5 billion. The fact that multi-billion-dollar companies are fudging their books when I am being so disgustingly transparent, it just hurts me. I'm thankful more of these companies are getting fucked over because you don't really get a benefit long-term for being dishonest like this. I personally like to believe that honesty wins long-term. It's why I do what I do and why I am who I am and why so many people fucking hate me, because I can't help but talk shit when I see shit. And I'll even do it with myself. People think T3 Chat is less stable than our competition because I actually explain what goes wrong when we have outages and everyone else just fucking lies and hides it. It's annoying, but I know long-term that honesty will win, as we see here with a $1.5 billion company not being able to cover their fucking asses enough to not go bankrupt. It's insane. Bloomberg reported earlier that Builder AI overstated its projected 2024 sales to creditors by 300%. Which contributed to the lender's decision to seize the company's funds, as they fucking should. Builder AI collected close to $60 million in revenue from Versailles in the 4-year period for services such as application development, according to the people with knowledge of the situation. In turn, the AI startup sent funds to Versailles and its subsidiary, Quark Media Tech, for services such as marketing, and I guess that's all it is. The documents were showing this pretty clearly. The companies appear to have interspersed the timing and amount of the invoices to avoid suspicion, though each firm ultimately spent approximately the same amount, according to people and documents. What's fun here is I actually have a problem with this myself. I am two entities to an extent. I have T3 content, which you can guess what this one does. It's not T3 chat. This is my YouTube channel, my advisory, all of the other stuff I do as an individual. This is the one that pays Ben, my channel manager, to help run the channel. This is the company that pays FaZe, my editor, to edit my videos. This is the company that gets paid when sponsors come in to sponsor the channel. This is the company that gets paid from YouTube and Twitter and all the other places I get ad revenue from. T3 Content is the media arm, and it is a fully, entirely unrelated separate business from Ping, aka T3 Tools Incorporated. This is the business that I formed in 2021 when I got into Y Combinator and made a real company and raised real money and did real shit. And 3 years later, we finally actually started making money. T3 Tools is the company that owns Upload Thing. It owns T3 Chat. It owns Ping.gg. It owns PickThing. All the things that I build and charge money for and have my team maintaining. That is my business, my startup, that I am at 50-50 split on with my CTO, Mark. So Mark and I both own about 46% after dilution and whatnot of the business. And that's an important detail because if we didn't own 50-50, I'd be the majority owner. And if I was the majority owner, these now become the same taxable entity, which was a very annoying thing when T3 Content was making money and Ping was not. And realistically speaking, I am not the majority owner of Ping. There are no decisions I can make that Mark can't override, and vice versa. These are two entirely separate legal entities. One is me. T3 Content is an LLC that is mine. It is my business. Ping is a venture-backed company that I and others own significant portions of. These are entirely separate businesses. So here is the problem. Because I cover things like the T3 chat stuff we build on the content side, there are companies that I will use the product of, like, and do a video on. And since I like them, I'll reach out about a sponsor deal. And their favorite thing to say is, what if instead of paying you, we give you the service for free? Or even better, I shit you not, one of these vendors that we spend $300 to $400 a month on offered to give us their $60,000 tier for free to get a bunch of ads, to get more than $60K worth of ads. And I had to explain to them, I'm sorry, motherfuckers. I gave you free coverage on my business, on my YouTube channel, because I thought the product was good, because I used you and I pay for you on this side. These are separate entities. They do not cross streams. They don't pay each other. They don't work with each other. They're different fucking things. I'm also paying you way less money than that tier, and I don't need any of the features in that goddamn tier. I don't care. If you want to convince me to subscribe to that tier for my company, try it later because I'm not interested right now. You're not getting out of paying me if you want the sponsor coverage. If you want me to cover your thing in my videos going forward, the thing I actually like and use, and basically did a video promoting from just because I used it and enjoyed it, they're like, okay, but what if we give you it for 2 years? And I just didn't have the fucking heart to respond to the email because they read an email where I said, you can't get out of paying this by paying this, because then I am crossing streams. I am committing a similar type of fraud to what we are talking about here. These are different fucking businesses. And they were so willing to just do it anyways. They were pressuring me to do it anyways. And now I'm not going to work with the brand. And now I'm hesitant to even leave the video up where I promoted their product because this was skeevy enough that I didn't like it. I am as honest and real as I can be with this, both to all of you people that I talk to and share my thoughts about these things with, but also to my investors, to my creditors, to my bank, to everyone else involved in the chaos that is T3 chat, my business, and T3 content and my YouTube stuff. It's just so frustrating that people default to committing fraud. The number of stories I've heard of creators being reached out to, being offered to be paid money to review a product and not disclose that it was a paid review, it just makes me sick. If I'm ever paid to do something, you will know it as soon as it happens. And I try to limit what brands influence me to do by telling them what the fuck I'm going to do. Do you have any idea how many brands have hit me up and offered to pay me 5 times more money if I did a dedicated video that no one would watch instead of a 2-minute ad that's actually useful? I'll never do it. I learned my lesson. I might, if the product's really good and I have an angle that's useful, briefly consider it. But I like the new model, and you guys like the new model. And our goal with all of this is to be honest. The goal of this fucking company is to look like they are successful more than to be successful. And this is a thing I see a lot. This falls under the same thing I talked about, in the ARC video, cosplaying CEO. At this point, it's cosplaying a successful business. You know what successful businesses do? They hire a lot of people. They spend a ton of money on marketing. They spend a shitload of money doing all sorts of things that don't really matter. They have offices all over the world, really big ones that look super cool. They also have revenue that goes up. So Builder AI managed to make all of those things happen, but they forgot to actually make money. And it is so goddamn common, and it hurts to see. Honestly, the fact that they were faking the AI part by having a crappy scaffold really early before Claude got good and just hiring a bunch of devs in India to go build the code for them, that's not even the interesting part to me at this point. It's like funny, but that's not the thing that is as pathetic here. Obviously, you guys almost certainly think that is more pathetic, but doing the obvious scam, the one everyone sees and thinks about and knows better than to do. Do you know how easy it would be for me to pay myself from T3 tools every time I mention T3 chat and then just spend it on the unlimited tier on T3 chat and buy a bunch of credits? I could so quickly 10x our ARR by just paying myself to make ads about T3 chat and then paying the company for a subscription to T3 chat. I could make this business look absurd. And it just feels fucking stupid. And like, it's obvious you don't do that. It's so stupid fucking obvious. T3 Tools pays me $50,000 a year to be the boss. That is my salary. That is what I make off of T3 chat. It doesn't matter that the company is profitable. I don't see a goddamn cent of that money until maybe someday I sell some of my shares, pre-market, post-market, or we exit, we go IPO, or I sell it to a business. That's how I make my money on T3 chat. Okay, I did just bump my salary because apparently I was paying myself so little that I'm not technically like honoring my role as an employee, and that can mess up the relationship between the business, which is fucking stupid. But I'm paying myself, I think I bumped my salary to 100K. It's annoying I have to, I don't want to, but that is my salary as an employee of the business, and it has nothing to do with my coverage and my content. My content side is entirely separate. It is obviously separate. It should stay separate. It will stay separate. These things have nothing to do to each other. So if you're one of those sponsors if you're one of those people that I talked about sponsorship stuff, you're trying to get me to take a discount for the T3 chat usage of your product to trade a sponsor, fuck off. You don't know how any of this shit works. Please stop annoying me about it. And I'm going to send this clip to the company that I am talking about here because I need them to know how fucked they are, and I need them to realize that they're on notice now. Because what the fuck? Anyways, this has been quite a rant. I hope you guys understand where I'm coming from and why I think this part is much more interesting than this part is. But yes, it is also very funny that they couldn't get the AI working, so they just paid a bunch of devs to fix it anyways. That's how these things go. That's how this all went. Let me know what you think. And until next time, stop committing fraud. Allegedly. I'm gonna fucking die. I saw you mention this earlier, Villainy. I don't think I'll make a video on that. I don't know how to make it in a packaging that's compelling enough. I'll think about it, though. I wanted to write a blog post about writing good blog posts, but I've been way too fucking busy. Thanks, Hujiro. I saw that it's late for you. Thanks for stopping in. I saw you mention this in my DMs earlier. I'm just way too busy to check things out like that. And also, it's not that great a feature. I appreciate it, though. Good work on that. Thanks for the heads up on this, Gabriel. I don't care enough. The Flutter thing is funny, but I also don't care enough. Do I have this in me? I feel like I'm too low on time to do that one. I almost think these two need to be merged. The AI dev tool ecosystem, and stop calling everything vibe code. I am also now technically back on track with the schedule. It was bad because things suck right now. But if we set this, it would be cool to get this out tonight, but I'm going to be realistic. This also soon. Bump out my AI skeptic friends. Bump these. Oh shit, yeah, we can make it to Thursday. Cool. I'm gone. This was fun. Thank you all for showing up for a last minute stream. I'm happy we could get some videos done so that my schedule is has a little more buffer. I really miss when we had 40 videos of buffer. I really miss it. Not rating anybody because I need to go eat food. I'll do the local first video soon. Let me thank all the subs really quick and then we'll wrap up. Okay, of course, Twitch froze. Thank you, Cyan. That's gone. Hey, Glassy. Always good to see you. Deadly Ninja. Is Ninja Bunny. Addy. Always good to see you. Rough Patch with the gift bomb. Eva with the cheer. Thank you all. I'm going to go eat my food and get my Switch and try to have some fun. I don't have time to find someone to raid. Appreciate you guys. Goodbye.